Welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host. It's time for a little more Narcissist trash talk. Tonight's discussion will cover what it looks like when the Cluster B creature's mask slips, and also how this ties beautifully in with the concept of entitlement. I'll begin with an example, which may or may not be familiar to those of you out there experiencing such things. Let's say you are a lady and you've been dating a guy for several months. Your lives have become intertwined together. He has become a regular fixture in your life. And let's say you have a strange suspicion that he is sweet on some other chick. Yet, on many occasions, this knight in shining armor tells you how you're the only one in his life, you're the only one who matters, and there's nobody else, which sounds great, but something inside you tells you that it doesn't seem authentic. You address it with this creature and tell him, you know what, I think something's going on with Susie from the grocery store. And instead of seeing things from your perspective, because remember, these creatures don't have empathy, he doesn't have the ability to see things through your eyes and come to a conclusion as to why you may feel the way you do, and instead brushes it off as, oh honey, you're being paranoid again. You know there's nobody else. You're insecure. You got problems. Let's say that does not do for you, and you're sure something's fishy. So you ask again, politely, and get the same kind of response. And at this point, you're pissed, because you know something is going on. You'd love for this person to be there for you only, but you just can't shake the feeling that something's fishy. So you have tried on a few occasions to get the creature to fess up, and it doesn't happen. So then you have to take things to the next level. So what do? You go by that grocery store, you see the list of business cards they have on display, and you take the one with Susie's name on it, and you rush on home with it. Since the creature's away, you decide to call. And you call Susie, and she answers. You ask her a few questions, and she tells you more than you want to know, and more than enough to indicate that your suspicions were spot on. This, of course, gives you a strange sensation. On one hand, it's a feeling of elation because you're being validated for what you thought, but then on the other half, it's dealing with a liar, and it's a yucky feeling. You sit on this for a while and think, how are you going to address this? Because all this time, you've been sharing your suspicions, and here they are confirmed straight from the horse's mouth. And you're thinking to yourself the whole time, how could this creature have done this? I laid it all out for it. I told it what I knew, and it still insisted I was wrong. It still insisted that I was paranoid and imagining things you now know you weren't. You have a short discussion with Susie. You get a few details that fill in a few holes of some gaps in time that you had no accounting for, and you feel like you got a pretty good idea what's really going on. Your creature returns after its work, and you gently, friendly, decide to bring up the subject again, but you don't want to reveal too much. You just want to give it the chance to come clean. You're desperately hoping you're dealing with a real human being who will see the error of its ways and will see the need at this moment to admit what's going on. Well, guess what happens? More of the same. More of the accusations of paranoia. More disqualifying of your observations and your rationalizations using logic and valid information. And maybe Susie told you a few details that you wouldn't know otherwise, so you let out a few of them. Are you sure you're not seeing Susie? Because doesn't she reveal something she had said? You get a chance to observe it at this point, because you already know it's busted. And then you observe it, acting cool and like nothing's wrong and like you've got the problem, and that scares you a little bit because you're thinking, if that was me and I told that whopper and I was being confronted, I wouldn't be that cool. Well, welcome to the Cluster B creature. They're not like regular human beings. Well, eventually, after you've tried a few attempts, and they're all smashed away. Finally, you yank out that business card, you hold it up, and then you hold up your phone, which shows the record of a 65-minute call to that number, and you say, honey, you're busted. I talked to Susie, and she told me the whole story. What is wrong with you? In this moment, let's freeze frame, take a picture, stop, step away. Clearly, who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? Well, clearly the good guy is you. The bad guy is the liar. If you think back to your fairy tale romance, your love bombing, your creature who would do anything for you to make sure you're happy, yet now what do you see? You don't see a creature falling down to its knees in tears, begging for forgiveness, telling you how wrong it was to do what it did. No, 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 no. What do you hear instead? Once you show him the phone and the business card, and he puts two and two together to realize you mean business and that you actually crossed that line, which he figured previously you would never do, and what does he do? He screams at you. He yells, "What are you spying on me for? What are you calling her for? That is weird. You're weird." And he fails to address the very fact that everything you just revealed indicates he's a liar, and he is caught. But does he show any remorse? Does he show any guilt? There ain't none. And this is where you see the mask slipping. What does this mean? Like I said a second ago, there's no feeling of doing anything wrong. The only feeling is fury at you for daring to cross that line, to dare call Susie and ask her about their relationship together, which previously never existed. Now, does that seem right to you? If you've got a person promising you day in and day out something is true, and you've just disproven it, do you really think that person cares that much for you? No. You are simply an object being used for a specific purpose, and you are not dare to step over certain boundaries and do what you've done. And so instead of addressing the fact that it's a liar, it probably screams at you again, tells you that you're a weirdo and paranoid, and then storms out the door and slams it behind it. Now, how do you feel? Do you feel great? I don't think so. But you have just witnessed the mask slip. Because remember, when the mask is on, it's Mr. Perfect. It would never hurt you. It would never lie to you or cheat or do anything disloyal. Yet, here it is caught red-handed doing just those things. And how does it respond? It flees. If you've encountered this type of situation, accept the fact. You got to see its mask slip. You have to keep in mind, these creatures don't ever relate to you as an equal. An equal would be somebody you're seeing who's also interested in the chick at the grocery store, and he feels close enough to tell you about it. That's not going to happen with these types of creatures. No, they're going to pretend that you're the only one. What you see here is that obviously he doesn't feel that he's done anything wrong. Your brain is also going backward, recounting various conversations you'd had before about this very type of thing and how you thought it might be very realistic for it to happen for him. Yet he had all these answers that said, oh no, that would never happen. You worry too much. And then here you are. Instead of the correct response, you're given this fleeing fool. Well, this demonstrates the cluster B creature's feelings of entitlement. Because face it, his intention was to keep you going, as he had been, to keep this other chick on the side going privately, and near the two shall meet. You were not supposed to go over that line to find out this. You were supposed to stay in your little compartment and be quiet and believe every word it says. If you look at it this way, what's going on here is this creature has put itself upon a pedestal. Now, during its love bombing, it appeared to put you on one, but you'll notice that all the things that it solved for you didn't ever have anything to do with it. No, it had to do with outside factors, that it could step in and take over. But now the moment you're upset with something it's done, which is a very important thing, because it tears apart all the words that you've heard up to this point about its devotion to you. But you can see that basically you weren't supposed to know about any of this. Its major concern here was what? How dare you spy and then flee? Well, how do you feel? Does that feel great? No, it's sick. And it shows you the kind of creature you're dealing with. The entitlement for it to do what it wants, for you not to know, and not to check, not to find out, and because you did, how dare you? The key point here, though, is your involvement plays a role here. In this creature's eyes, if you're still dating it, let's say during the first part before you actually confirmed it, Susie, The fact that you might question it or tell it what you think, but still see it every night, well, that means something to the narcissistic creature. That means that you're willing to take their abuse. Sure, they're not going to admit to the abuse, but they see they're getting by with making their excuses and you sticking around. Of course, your intention's probably to get them to come clean and just tell it like it is, but that doesn't happen. But they don't know any of that. They just know that you're still there. So as long as you're sticking around, it'll keep doing it. And on some level, they also feel you deserve what's going on because they think, she knew that I did that one thing and caught it even though I lied, and she still wants to see me? It's on. She's getting more. And then he does more. One last part here in this discussion would be the way to think of your cluster B creature. They're like a book. A book with a cover that has specific words on it that say things like, this is a romantic novel, no violence, a pure and innocent tale of love. And then when you open the cover and read about a murder, a raping, and then you read about more violence, a hate story between two people who fight day and night, who kill each other or try to kill each other. None of these stories fit anything on the cover. Well, that would represent your narcissistic creature. It's full of words to tell you how it is. Oh, I'm wonderful. Oh, I'm honest. Oh, I'm loving. Oh, I'm devoted. Oh, I'm loyal. All these things, but then, like you read the book, you read these evil stories in your life, you experience this creature doing things that don't fit those words. Well, imagine you found the author was in your town doing a book signing. Truck on down to the Barnes & Noble, you wait in line, and you come to the author and say, hey, I have questions for you. I noticed that the cover of your book says there's no violence, it's a romance story, and blah, blah, blah. Was that a joke? Because it was full of it. In a real world, non-abusive, non-manipulative, the author may say, oh, you got that? That was a joke. It's full of violence. It's full of evil. There is no romance. Oh, you got it. But no, with the narcissistic creature, it will be like the author of the book says, I don't know what you're talking about. There is no violence in that book. It is a romance novel. Are we talking about the same book? I think you're wrong. You've read the wrong book. Well, that's your narcissist for you. This book walks around with the words on it. And when you tell the book, look, you're mislabeled, you should say a book full of violence and gore and killing and hatred. Well, if you were to say that to your narcissistic creature, you'd probably be given a pity play of, why do you have to insult me so much? You must think you're so much better. It must make you feel good to put others down. And you're like, no, I'm just looking at the cover of the book and I'm seeing what's inside of it and pointing out that they're two different things. So when the mask slips, take note and realize it only gets worse. So if you can escape, please do. If not, be prepared for more, and it gets progressively worse.
I am the most beautiful narcopath you'll ever meet.
I'm here to give you a few more confessions. When we first dated, you told me very clearly that you were Christian. And I said, oh, I am too. I believe in every word of the Bible. I sure did. And after we dated a few nights and you witnessed me stealing from the grocery store on the corner, you witnessed me lying to my parents, disrespecting my father, and you saw me kill that little bird and that little mouse. You were perplexed, thinking, how could you be such a Christian if you just did those things I just mentioned? Well, honey, I don't put two and two together. I had no idea that was against the rules of being Christian. I just said I was because you were. And of course, when you asked, why'd you kill that bird, I was like, well, I normally wouldn't, but I only did that because, and I forgot what excuse I gave you, but it was retarded. I don't know if you bought it or not. Well, you must have, because we dated for 6 more months. That lying to the mother, I don't normally lie to my parents, but I had to this time because we couldn't have gone on this vacation together if I would have told her the truth. Are you upset about that? And that got you to shut your mouth. And then the other time,
You questioned me stealing that liquor from the store.
I didn't have my ID that day. I was going to pay it back. So you think. You bought all of it.
As a narcopath, I do what I have to do to get what I want. That means pretending to be a Christian or whatever other religion, Muslim or whatever else. I'll do it.
Doesn't mean I know anything about the religion. If anybody asks, I'll just make an excuse up like I did for you. And because my teats are so hot, they usually buy it. Ha! But if they sit and spend any time thinking about it, they're probably going to be coming back to me asking for more information. Well, honey, I ain't got it.
They'll come back asking me about it, like, how could I...
Break this commandment, that commandment. It's like, honey, I don't have the answer for that, and I usually dump them after that because I've got nothing else to say. I can't make a fool of myself. If you were as beautiful as I would you? Bingo.